What's the deal?
Yeah. Let's just answer the question.
So, is that a yes or is that a yes? Is that a hand raise?
You do not.
I think it was a hand raise for him, and it's my hands are in my pockets.
No,
the climate change agenda is a hoax. Let us be honest as Republicans. I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax. The climate change agenda is a hoax, and we have to declare independence for it. And the reality is, the anti-carbon agenda is the wet blanket on our economy. And so the reality is, more people are dying of bad climate change policies than they are of actual climate change.
Governor Haley, are you bought and paid for?
Is down by 98%.
Hold on.
Polls consistently show that young people's #1 issue is climate change. How will you, as both President of the United States and leader of the Republican Party, calm their fears that the Republican Party doesn't care about climate change?
So we want to start on this with a show of hands. Do you believe in human behavior is causing climate change? Raise your hand if you do.
Well, look, we're not school children. Let's have the debate. I mean, I'm happy to take it to start. Alexander,
so do you want to raise your hand or not?
I don't think that's the way to do. So let me just say to Alexander this. First of all, one of the reasons our country's decline is because of the way the corporate media treats Republicans versus Democrats. Biden was on the beach while those people were suffering. He was asked about it. He said, no comment. Are you kidding me? As somebody that's handled disasters in Florida, you got to be activated. You've got to be there. You've got to be present. You've got to be helping people who are doing this.
And
here's the deal.
More people are dying of bad climate change policies than actual climate change. I feel like that was supposed to be a cheeky line. But it truly, honestly just shows your ineptitude and your idiocy. This is idiocracy, you know? These guys are just going on and on and on like it's just normal. Like this is just any other normal debate. And everything that America represents is at risk of just being utterly destroyed. And Vivek Ramaswamy, I mean, how disappointing. How emotionally unintelligent, how unethical, how can someone have such a lack of compassion? You know, honestly, guys, I'm going to be real honest with you. Ever since he basically was the catalyst that made CNN do Don Lemon real dirty, I'm not with Vivek. No, I'm really, really not. I'm really not.
He's just this little kid going around trying to say the right lines and do the right things. Everything was so prepackaged. Everything. There wasn't a conspiracy theory he didn't follow down. There wasn't an insult he didn't launch. It was all so miserable. But it was a fascinating debate in other aspects. Nikki Haley and, you know, DeSantis kind of was like Biden. Like, I know they both will love to hear that. But DeSantis just kind of stayed in there. He didn't do anything great. Anybody that wanted him to, like, save his campaign are going to be disappointed. Anybody that wanted to see him collapse would have been disappointed. He just kind of hung in there. And I think, for me, the headlines are Nikki Haley had a couple of really good moments. Vivek did his best to insult absolutely everybody. Chris Christie was actually thrown off his game a bit by Vivek because they went back and forth. At one point, Chris Christie saying Vivek sounded like ChatGPT. But again, DeSantis kind of held his own. All in all, probably not much of a change, except a lot of press for Vivek, and who knows, maybe some conspiracy theorists will support him coming out of this.
Yeah, if this was Vivek Ramaswamy's night to introduce himself to the country, which he said was his goal last night for people who said, who is this guy? He did that. He earned a lot of time. He was center stage next to Governor DeSantis. But also with that time, he said we should cut off aid to Ukraine altogether. He said the climate change agenda was a hoax. And he said he would issue a preemptive pardon of Donald Trump for all these crimes he's alleged of. We're going to see Donald Trump turning himself in Fulton County today. So, yes, he had the spotlight. Yes, he introduced himself, but that's what he did with it. And to your point, Joe and Mika, that Ron DeSantis was center stage. He's polling the highest among the people who were there.
Seriously.
Granted, 40 points behind Donald Trump in the latest poll. But he was, Joe, he wasn't really there. I mean, he got off a few canned lines at the top. And it was interesting to see that the fire from the other candidates was trained not at all on Ron DeSantis. It was all going at Vivek Ramaswamy, which tells you what the rest of the field thinks about this race.
Now let's look at his history.
The very policies that we implemented in this country in the name of helping black Americans have actually been disastrous for black Americans and all Americans. And I think that that's something that we need to wake up to.
In 1865, you were talking about the black codes, right?
That's right.
Enacted to make it a crime for a black person to carry a gun in the South. But you're equating that to the current president? You're referring to economic change? What are you saying?
Well, I was referring to Joe Biden's,
so knowledgeable on the
chosen
struggles of black
expression to say
people.
they're the party that wants to put you back into chains. What I'm actually saying is that if you look at the policies of the modern Democratic Party,
historically, no.
Absolutely. So what I'm saying is that actually it's policies like that of Lyndon Johnson and Joe Biden that are actually holding black Americans back.
The war on poverty?
Yes, and in particular his Great Society, where he actually created incentives in the family where if you're a family, you could actually get more money by not having the father in the home. Guess what you get? You get what you pay for. And I think it's been really bad for the black community. I think it's really bad for all Americans.
Do you have anything on this before I move on to China?
I don't see what one
So
has to do
misguided.
with the other, but go on. I took up a lot of time with Fox.
Oh, it's fine. We have time.
I don't really see what one has to do
poor
with
Don.
the other, especially consider and using the Civil War to talk about black Americans. That war was not fought for black people to have guns. That's not.
That war was fought for black people to have freedoms in this country.
Yeah.
Actually, that's why the Civil War was fought.
Okay.
And the sad
but
part about
that wasn't fought for black people to have guns. I think.
Actually, you know, funny fact is, black people did not get to enjoy the other freedoms until their Second Amendment rights were secured. And I think that that's one of the lessons that we
still
learned.
aren't allowed to enjoy the freedoms.
I disagree with you on that, Don. I disagree with you. I think you're doing a disservice to our country by failing to recognize the fact that we have equality before the law.
When you are in black skin and you live in this country, then you can disagree with me. But we're not. You mentioned in there that
I
we have
disagree.
three different
John, I think we have to be able to talk about these issues in the open, regardless of the color of our skin. Black Americans today, to say that, compare that to 1865 and 1964,
I think for you to compare it to
absolutely
1865 and
have equal
1964
rights in this
is
country.
actually, I think it's insulting to black people. It's insulting to me as an African American. I don't want to sit here and argue with you because it's infuriating for you to put those things together. It's not right. Your telling of history is wrong.
What part of the history was wrong? What part of the history was wrong?
That the Civil War was fought. You're making people think that the Civil War was fought for black people, only for black people to get guns and for black people to have.
The Civil War was fought for black people in this country to get freedoms.
PSA for the NRA.
Even after we succeeded, we had to actually secure those freedoms.
To reduce it in a speech at the NRA to say you're making people think, or you're trying to say that black people to get guns, that was the reason that you're there at the NRA. That was the reason for the Civil War.
It is a
fact.
That's
reductive.
It's not
and
reductive,
I think it's
Don.
insulting. There are a whole plethora of reasons that for the Civil War.
With due respect,
This is a video that was released
I find
by
your explanation
CNN
reductive and actually insulting, including to
right
black
before
Americans, to say that
Don
black people
essentially,
today,
was
compared to
released
1964,
from his
1865, haven't made progress in part because of the freedoms we secured. And the Second Amendment was
Black
part of
people,
what
hang
secured
on,
that
please. I
freedom.
cannot keep a thought if you guys are talking to me in my ear. So hang on one second. So to say that black people,
Big brother,
say what
Big
you said
brother's
again.
watching.
Black people secured their freedoms after the Civil War. It is a historical fact, Don. Just study it. Only after their Second Amendment rights were secured.
They
That's
were
a
not
fact.
secured their freedoms after the Civil War. That is not. You are discounting Reconstruction. You're discounting a whole host of things that happened after the Civil War when it comes to African Americans, including the whole reason that the Civil Rights Movement happened is because black people did not secure their freedoms after the Civil War, and that things turned around. People tried to change
Republicans
the freedoms that were
didn't give
supposed
black people their freedoms. Black people did.
Rights, and they actually got the NRA played a big role in that. But today,
The
Don,
NRA did not play a big role
absolutely,
in
they
that.
trained black Americans how to use firearms.
That's a lie. That's not. The NRA did not play a big role in that.
This is just historical fact.
It's
But
not historical fact.
The part that I
Just
find
because you say it's historical fact.
The part that I find
not
insulting
historical
is when you say today black Americans don't have those rights after
Oh,
we have
yeah.
gone
The fact
through
that I find
civil rights
insulting
revolution
is
in this
that
country.
You are sitting here telling an African American about the rights and what you find insulting about the way I live, the skin I live in every day.
Here's where you and I
know
have a
the
different
freedoms
point
that
of view.
black and white that black people don't have in this country, and that black people do have.
Well, here's where you and I have a different point of view. I think we should be able to express our views regardless of the color of our skin. We should have this debate without me regarding you as a black man, but me regarding you as a fellow citizen.
That you're
That's what I
sitting
think we should
here,
see.
whatever ethnicity you are, explaining to me
whatever ethnicity
about
I'm,
what it's like to be black
whatever
in America.
ethnicity I'm, I'll tell
sorry.
you what I am. I'm an Indian American. I'm proud of it. But I think we should have this debate. Black, white, doesn't matter.
I think we should have this
on
debate.
the content of the
ideas. If you're going to do it, you should do it in an honest way and in a fair way. And what you're doing is not an honest and fair way. Okay? We appreciate you coming on.
With due respect, Don, I look forward to continuing that conversation. Thank you.
The conversation.
Thank you.
That is horrendous to watch. It literally hurts my heart, my insides, my feelings, like my eyebrows, it hurts my eyelashes to watch that. Vivek Ramaswamy showed us who he was a long time ago. Now, I don't know if he's on Donald Trump's payroll, but, you know, that right there and his performance at the primary debate just seems like some caricaturized performance of some hodgepodge, some Frankenstein monster between Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, DeSantis, whichever one it is. I don't know. I think that he is vying for a role in Trump 2024 administration if that happens. Other than that, I mean, I think that he's someone who's searching for power, but he's clearly not in this for all American people.
We're going to turn now to the horror in Maui, the desperate search for the missing, the death toll surpassing 100 now.
The record heat in the South that's claimed at least 13 lives in Texas.
Climate change is not real. Vivek, is climate change a hoax?
Flooding disaster in Europe that's killed more than 187 people.
From a powerful typhoon in coastal China that caused billions of dollars worth of damage.
Listen.
Climate change is a hoax.
Hold on.
I've had enough. I've had enough already tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here.
And it's true. It's true.
And the last person in one of these debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, "What's a skinny guy with an odd last name doing up here?" was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing on stage.
Okay, so if we want to talk about Barack Obama, okay, Chris Christie, let's look. So Barack Obama, 8.1 million job creations in his first 36 months. Trump, 6.6. Obama, unemployment rate. Trump, unemployment rate. Yeah, federal deficit, numbers of uninsured Americans, okay. Okay, we seeing this? So generally, real wage growth, generally, Obama was doing better.
Come over and give me a hug. Give me a hug just like you did to Obama.
The same time amateur.
And you'll help elect me just like you did to Obama, too. Give me that bear hug,
type of.
You see that? Please check out my video entitled "It's Been About Obama All Along."
Look, the reality is that he's a shallow, shameless, facile demagogue. Which means he's probably going to get a bump in the polls, in the Republican polls. He may be in second place by the end of all of this. But I also thought it was extraordinary how little time they spent talking about the orange elephant not in the room. Fox News went out of its way not to even talk about it during the first hour.
Governor Haley, would you like to respond? Are you bought and paid for?
What I would like to say is the fact that I think this is exactly why Margaret Thatcher said, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman.
Nikki Haley, okay, she did a good job, but still getting major Karen vibes. She's quoting a crazy prime minister tyrant, conservative tyrant, Margaret Thatcher.
And the right way to do it is, first of all, yes, is climate change real? Yes, it is. But if you want to go and really change the environment, then we need to start telling China and India that they have to lower their emissions.
Again, othering. Stop othering them. There are people who live there.
That Biden has put in, all he's done is help China, because he doesn't understand all these electric vehicles that he's done, what that does. Half of the batteries for electric vehicles are made in China. And so that's not helping the environment. You're putting money in China's pocket, and Biden did that. So first of all, I think we need to acknowledge the truth, which is these subsidies are not working. We also need to take on the international world and say, okay, India and China, you've got to stop polluting, and that's when we'll start to deal with
Senator Scott, are you bought and paid for?
So Nikki Haley, the one thing that I can respect is that she actually learns. She's a learned woman and she educates herself. She's still giving off Major Karen vibes, and she others, you know.
Absolutely.
Are you bought and paid for?
I'm sorry?
Are you bought and paid
Absolutely not. I mean, here's what the American people deserve is a debate about the issues that affect their lives. Going back and forth being childish is not helpful to the American people to decide on the next leader of our country. Number one, wait a second. And number two, as a kid who grew up in a single-parent household mired in poverty, I wondered, was the American dream real for kids who were devastated by poverty, devastated by the challenges of life? I came to the conclusion that America can do for anyone what she's done for me if we focus on restoring hope, creating opportunities, and protecting America. If we want the environment to be better, and we all do, the best thing to do is to bring our jobs home from China. If we create 10 million new jobs in my Made in America plan, we will have a better economy and a better environment. Let me tell you why I say that, Brett. America,
do it quickly.
America has cut.
Why is Tim Scott the only one who's who's got to do it quickly?
That was quick. America has cut our carbon footprint in half in the last 25 years.
Yeah, you still black, bro.
The
they still treat you like
where
black.
they are continuing to increase. Africa, 950 million people. India, over 1 billion. China, over 1 billion. Why would we put ourselves at a disadvantage, devastating our own economy? Let's bring our jobs home.
Tim Scott has a lot of potential, but he has betrayed his black card. When he basically said that, you know, I think it was Ron DeSantis and the anti-education bills. I think he was like, yeah, that's not right. Or either that or affirmative action. I can't remember. Maybe he got like a fourth of a black card back, but yeah, it's not there. And he really is like Vivek Ramaswamy. I think he also represents the black or brown face of white supremacy. I hope that he's genuine. I really do. I think that he's genuine. I just think he's misguided and a little blinded. Yeah, I don't think he's right. I don't think he's right for the president. All right, so check this out.
Education is the closest thing to magic in America. So I'm about making sure that our kids have as many opportunities to succeed as possible. It's one of the reasons why.
I need an opportunity to succeed because I have to go to. They're big.
I'm just getting started. I believe all people can see the success that I've had.
You know, I sat and I listened to everything you said.
Yes.
And I wonder why these conversations don't seem to be held with Republicans. All of the exceptional stuff you're talking about. And one of the reasons we continue to have new exceptionalism is because every time folks make 40 steps forward, they get dragged 40 steps back. So how do we, as a nation, because as a nation, we seemingly get on the right track and then we go backwards. So you as a black man, and as one of the, are there two black?
Senators?
Yeah.
Raphael Warnock.
That's
three now.
We still count Cory Booker, okay?
Cory
and Warnock on one side and me on the other side.
Yeah,
so that's
it still happened, Tim.
Yes.
But you yourself have talked about when the police stopped
you. To me, basically, Tim denies
How
that racism
can
is
you
real.
Get your party to stop trying to stop the progression
He's like a
that
softer
people are
Clarence
making?
Thomas.
That's what I complained about when I spoke about it. I want you to come out and say, listen, the Republicans have these issues. So
yeah, I think humans have these issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, the issue of discrimination that I have faced, I assume you face as well, is an issue of the heart. It's not Republicans or Democrats. Frankly, both sides of the aisle can do a better job on the issue of race. And frankly, my side of the aisle, I think, is doing a fabulous job of making progress. The question is, how do we measure that progress?
How is that?
Well, let me just give you a couple examples. So when you think about, this is good news, yeah. So. I thought you only had one question, but I'll give you the answer to it anyway. So here's how it works.
That was me talking.
Okay.
So I'd love to.
I'm going to lay
Tim Scott is he's not acknowledging the struggles that Black Americans face, you know, and he even talks about growing up in poverty, you know, growing up in a single parent household, but it's like he doesn't paint the bigger picture for us. Why are Black people in America so marginalized? Why are they at higher rates homeless, at higher rates receiving from the welfare, at higher rates unemployed, at higher rates less represented in governments? Why at higher rates are they the most people in the prison system? It comes back to slavery, it comes back to Jim Crow. You know, can we point those things out, Tim? He's like, oh, it's not just Republicans, it's in the heart of people. You know, it's like, if it's in the heart, like, that's great, but you have to say, but.
Believe that Mike Pence did the right thing.
Obviously he did the right thing. Why isn't it questioned?
Absolutely. He did the right thing. Number one. Number two, we should be asking ourselves a bigger question about the weaponization of the Department of Justice. When I'm president, the first thing I'll do is fire Merrick Garland. Second thing I'll do, fire Christopher Wray, because we need Lady Justice to wear a blindfold. Without that, no one has confidence in our justice system. 17% of Republicans have confidence in our Department of Justice. Here's why. We keep seeing not only the weaponization of the Department of Justice against political opponents, but also against parents who show up at school board meetings. They're called, under this DOJ, they're called domestic terrorists.
Firing Christopher Wray,
that's not
shut down the FBI. Actually have the courage to get it right.
Mr. Ramaswamy. Let me finish my comments.
Yes.
Not only that, in addition to that, we see the SWAT team show up at pro-life activist homes with guns drawn, because this DOJ uses their power, uses their authority, not just against political opponents, but against conservatives and conservative causes. It is time for a change in America, and I will bring that change to the greatest nation on God's green earth.
Okay, now let me first just make this clear. I had to go and find some of Tim Scott's clips on his YouTube page. Didn't find him on Fox News because Fox News didn't want to give Tim Scott too much of a platform. Could it be because he's Black? You know, even though he's sitting here playing Uncle Tom, he's still the Black guy. He's still the guy who, like, do we really care about you that much? I'm not really sure that we do. Beyond that, okay, Tim Scott is sitting here talking about, you know, how Moms for Liberty, I assume he's talking about Moms for Liberty, that's considered a far-right extremist group. And he's saying it like that's not true. It is, okay? There was this kid, heartbreaking story. Please go on Vice. You know, I couldn't put it on here because it was too long. But there's a story from Vice where they talk about this kid named Tony and how he was targeted by them. Now, this is a picture of Clarence Thomas. I look at Tim Scott and I see Clarence Thomas vibes, okay? I am glad that he spoke up and said that Mike Pence did the right thing. But the thing where he's talking about, you know, these far-right extremist groups, just because they're moms, just because they're in the PTA, just because they wear nice pantsuits, doesn't mean that they're not far-right extremists. I mean, hate speech, harassment, some of them are predators. That's real. That's real. He's speaking on pro-life activists. The draconian abortion bans that have happened in some far red states have killed people, have killed women. How can you be pro-life and sit there and let a woman and her child pass away because she's got a rare condition, or because she, or maybe her life is gone because she was molested?
A girl only 13 years old gave birth after her mother said that her daughter was raped and impregnated by a stranger in Clarksdale, Mississippi last year. The girl could not get an abortion and is now a mom going into the 7th grade.
But 23 weeks into what seemed to be a normal pregnancy, just before Thanksgiving,
An ultrasound revealed the baby suffered from a lethal condition called Potter syndrome. Babies with Potter syndrome often die before they're born or suffocate within minutes or hours after birth. After agonizing over what to do, Deborah and her family made the extremely difficult decision to terminate the pregnancy. But her doctors and their lawyers refused, fearful they would run afoul of Florida's 15-week abortion ban. Without any other feasible options, Deborah was forced to carry the pregnancy to term, delivering the baby who died shortly after birth.
Now let me just say this. These are exceptions. Given. Got it. But no woman's body should be on the table for random men in Congress or state government, state leadership to decide what to do about it. Even if you were not molested, even if you did not have an extremely rare condition, you know, even if you just quite literally are not in that place in your life, even if you are not ready, you should be able to go get an abortion. Nobody should be able to tell you that. You don't see the European Union doing this. You don't. You don't see Australia doing this. It's bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre. That's not what they should be focusing on. They should be focusing on policy like climate change, like transportation, like energy, like jobs, unemployment.
Former President Trump has been indicted in 4 different states on 91 counts. He will be processed tomorrow in Georgia at the Fulton County Jail for charges relating to the 2020 election loss.
You all signed a pledge to support the eventual Republican nominee. If former President Trump is convicted in a court of law, would you still support him as your party's choice? Please raise your hand if you would.
Do you hear that guy? Yeah! He sounds like a moose. Yeah!
So just be clear.
Yeah!
Christy, you were kind of late to the
That's
game
not something to cheer. And Ron DeSantis.
Look, I'm doing this.
And I know you didn't.
Whoa. No.
What's the
look, here's the bottom line. Someone's got to stop normalizing this conduct. Okay? Now, and
I'm with you, Governor Christie. I am with you. So let's talk about this, guys. This is the order in which these hands went up. You know, this is the order in which these hands went up. So Vivek Ramaswamy, ChatGPT, flies up first. Then you have Nikki and Tim, all the people of color up first. You know, then you have Bingham, whatever his name is. Then you have Ron DeSantis, and then you have who is that?
And you know what's really sad
Then you have Mike
was
Pence.
the events of last night, which will be soon forgotten, where you had 6 candidates saying they would vote for a person who's a convicted felon. I mean, it's just absolutely stunning. But this is going to be 2016. This year is I mean, it's going to be 2016 is all over again because they're all attacking everyone but Trump. And they're going to end up nominating a candidate who, you know, will maybe a convicted felon, will probably die in prison, and Frank was found by a federal district court to be a rapist. It's just crazy. Yeah. And I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what the box you get out of this box.
Thank you, God. Somebody's highlighting these sentiments that people are talking about pardoning someone with such excruciating crimes of rape, of sedition, of trying to steal an election, of insurrection, of trying to overthrow the government, of fraud, of tax evasion, libel, so many different other ones. I mean, he's got so many lawsuits, I can't even keep track of it. The fact that these people are like, nope, it's okay. He can run the presidency from prison. Like, what? The fact that these people are talking about pardoning them, and Asa Hutchinson and Chris Christie are the only ones that say, like, this probably isn't a good idea. That's super duper creepy. This is not the America for 2023. Okay, let me just say that. This is not the America that we're going to want in 2023, because people are going to see this. Our kids are going to see this. Our grandkids are going to see this. Generations to come are going to see this. And they're going to look at which side of the bench you're on.
Now, whether or not
this is the wrong side.
Whether or not you believe that the criminal charges are right or wrong, the conduct is beneath the office of President of the United States.
Listen to the man. Why are they clapping? It's like, I don't even get the audience. They clap on some stuff, they don't clap on some stuff.
This is the great thing about this country. Booing is allowed, but it doesn't change the truth. It doesn't change the truth.
No, it does not.
I'm so glad that Rev talked about how the Republican Party has forfeited forever the idea that they were ever some law and order party or ever supported justice or, you know, even the Constitution with Chris Christie's getting booed when he brings up the unpleasant fact that Donald Trump said he wanted to terminate the Constitution of the United States if that's what it took for him to get back into the White House. But those candidates raised their hands, except for Asa Hutchinson and Chris Christie, to say they would support a president if he was convicted of stealing nuclear secrets, stealing military war plans to invade Iran, stealing military assessments on what the weakest parts of the United States military was, stealing a presidential election.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
And having everybody, not
that's
liberals,
not who you want as president.
having everybody around him saying, not only did he try to steal a presidential election, he headed up a conspiracy to get fake electors and then called the Georgia Secretary of State saying, I need you to steal 11,000 something votes from me. So again, the fact that they would raise their hand and say that they would support a presidential candidate who's convicted of stealing nuclear secrets,
it's so weird.
Tells you once again so much more than you need to know about how low the Republican Party has fallen in 2023.
How low can it go?
So why are you better positioned to turn around this economy that we've heard all of these voters talking about tonight than Mr. Ramaswamy, who is a successful entrepreneur nationally right now? He's beating you in the polls.
Well, I don't care about polls. What I care about, the fact is that no one is telling the American people the truth. The truth is that Biden didn't do this to us. Our Republicans did this to us, too. When they passed that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill, they left us with 90 million people on Medicaid, 42 million people on food stamps. No one has told you how to fix it. I'll tell you how to fix it. They need to stop the spending. They need to stop the borrowing. They need to eliminate the earmarks that the Republicans brought back in. And they need to make sure they understand these are taxpayer dollars. It's not their dollars. And while they're all saying this, you have Ron DeSantis, you've got Tim Scott, you've got Mike Pence. They all voted to raise the debt. And Donald Trump added $8 trillion to our debt, and our kids are never going to forgive us for this. And so at the end of the day, you look at the 2024 budget, Republicans asked for $7.4 billion in earmarks. Democrats asked for $2.8 billion. So you tell me who are the big spenders. I think it's time for an accountant in the White House.
Vice President Pence.
Governor Haley, you did not raise your hand, meaning that you would support more funding for the Ukraine war. You have said of Governor DeSantis that you didn't appreciate it when he initially called it a territorial dispute. Why?
First of all, the American president needs to have moral clarity. They need to know the difference between right and wrong. They need to know the difference between good and evil. Right. When you look at the situation with Russia and Ukraine, here you have a pro-American country that was invaded by a thug. So when you want to talk about what has been given to Ukraine, less than 3.5% of our defense budget has been given to Ukraine. If you look at the percentages per GDP, 11 of the European countries have given more than the U.S. But what's really important is go back to when China and Russia held hands, shook hands before the Olympics, and named themselves unlimited partners. A win for Russia is a win for China. We have to know that. Ukraine is the first line of defense for us. And the problem that Vivek doesn't understand is he wants to hand Ukraine to Russia. He wants to let China eat Taiwan. He wants to go and stop funding Israel. You don't do that to friends. What you do instead is you have the backs of your friends. Ukraine is the front line of defense. Putin has said if once Russia takes Ukraine, Poland and the Baltics are next. That's a world war. We're trying to prevent war. Look at what Putin did today. He killed Prigozhin. When I was at the UN, the Russian ambassador suddenly died. This guy is a murderer, and you are choosing a murderer over a pro-American country.
First of all,
Mr. Ramaswamy, you have 30 seconds. Mr. DeSantis,
Nikki, I wish you well in your future career on the boards of Lockheed and Raytheon.
I'm not
but the fact of the matter,
this right here.
Boeing came off of it, but you've been pushing this lie. You've been pushing this lie all week, Nikki.
You want to go and defund Israel? You want to
okay, let me address that. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to address each of those right now. This is the false lies of a professional politician. There you have it.
Your watch, so the reality is, America less safe. You have no foreign policy experience, and it shows.
And you know what?
Nikki Haley blew it. I gotta give her credit. She blew it up right there.
So our relationship with Israel.
Nah, bud, it's over.
By the end of my first term.
Just stay down. Just stay down.
It is a friendship. And you know what friends do? Friends help each other stand on their own 2 feet. So I will lead Abraham Accords 2.0. I will partner with Israel to make sure Iran never is nuclear armed. But you know what I love about Israel? And I've been there probably in the last 10 years more than most people on this stage. You know what I love about them? I love their border policies. I love their tough on crime policies. I love that they have a national identity and an iron dome to protect their homeland. And so, yes, I want to learn from the friends that we're supporting. And what puzzles me is, I want to learn from those and apply those to protect our homeland, Nikki.
Israel
that is the
needs
answer.
America. America needs Israel.
Okay, Governor DeSantis, you were mentioning that the
tough on crime.
dispute.
First of all, I love how the Republicans are tough on crime when it comes to certain parties, but when it comes to their own, they're not tough on crime. Secondly, Nikki Haley friggin' mopped the floor with Vivek Ramaswamy. I mean, she really did. She said you got no foreign policy experience, and it shows. It really, really does. He doesn't know how to talk about things in a diplomatic way, in a way that shows that you actually are about democracy. He sounds authoritarian. I want to also note that we're looking at three children of, three Indian American children. 3 second-generation Indian American children of immigrants who came from India. Vivek, Nikki, and Kamala Harris. Okay, right? So, Nikki Haley is from the north of India. And both Kamala Harris, well, not Nikki Haley, I'm sorry. Nikki Haley's parent, I'm not sure if it's her dad or her mom. I think it's her dad. Nikki Haley's dad, I think, is from the north of India, while Vivek and Kamala's people are from the south. I just got a note, y'all. When Nikki and Vivek were going at it, there seemed to be something deeply ancestral there. Now, I'm not going to comment any further, but it seemed really personal. She came for Vivek's head, and his head she walked away with. Now, that being said, I feel like what Kamala Harris has that Nikki Haley doesn't is that Kamala Harris is down to earth. I don't think that I'm just going to cheat Kamala Harris out of a poker game or something like that. But I do think that she is kind of closer to the everyday American people, and part of that, I think, comes from how much she emphasizes about her minority background. Minority, of course, because we know that these whole terms, minority, majority, whatever, it's not very accurate, but she talks about her background, her ethnic and unique cultural background, and I think people find that to be really authentic. You know, Nikki Haley, I feel like she has essentially tried to align herself with whiteness, for lack of better terms, as much as, and I know her daughter married a black guy, okay, great. I married a white guy, it's all good. But, you know, I just think that she's, I think she's a good choice. I want to know if she can work with others well. I want to know if she gets in the House, gets in the White House with Democrats, if she's going to play nice.
The nation's report card was the weakest ever for American school children, exposing chronic absenteeism, deep declines for reading and math for 15-year-olds and 13-year-olds. Governor DeSantis, you would eliminate, you said, the Department of Education. But as president, would you still have a responsibility to fix this crisis as we see it?
Absolutely. The decline in education is one of the major reasons why our country is in decline. We need education in this country, not indoctrination in this country. And in Florida, we stood up for what was right. First, we had schools open during COVID, and a lot of the problems that we've seen are because these lockdown states lock their kids out of school for a year, year and a half. That was wrong. We stood up. I took a lot of fire for that. I was pilloried by the media, but I stood for our kids. And as president, I'll stand for you and your kids as well. But we have to make sure that what our schools are doing is focusing on solid academics. In Florida, we eliminated critical race theory from our K-12 schools.
Yeah, that's not something
we eliminated gender ideology from our K-12 schools. And we have elevated the importance of American civics in teaching our kids about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. As president, I'm going to lead an effort to increase civic understanding and knowledge of our Constitution. We cannot be graduating students that don't have any foundation in what it means to be an American.
This guy is so lost. You know, it's like I can't decide whether or not he spent the whole night before really freaking out about this debate and doing a lot of research and looking into things, or if he just spent the whole night before sort of, you know, just on YouTube and looking at random cat videos and looking at videos of sumo wrestlers eating noodles. Like, I don't know. It just seems like he's not all there. And weird interactions with people, you know, oh, ice cream's got a lot of sugar in it, you know. The fact that he took this kid, this Catholic school kid who asked, hey, people say that the Republican Party doesn't care about climate change. And his answer to this good-hearted kid who's showing, hey, you know what? I'm the next generation of conservative leaders. I care about the planet. Let me just ask you real quick, what can the Republican Party do about climate change? Ron DeSantis is talking about how Joe Biden was on the beach when Maui happened. Like, how could he have predicted that that was going to happen? Okay, next thing, indoctrination. How can Ron DeSantis, how can he sit and talk about indoctrination when he is the one indoctrinating? When schools in Florida are investing in the terrible PragerU cartoons that show some warped version of American history. When he wants to take AP African American history out of classes. A class that I took by example also. You know, like, you know what? Let me not lie on myself. They offered AP American History at my school. I took African American History in university. I'm sorry. I took AP Literature in school. But still, AP American History, first of all, what does AP mean? It means Advanced Placement. That also means that these are the kids who really care about learning. And you're taking part of that away from them. That's not even part of the core mandatory curriculum. You know, it's something that's like an additional thing. That's high achievers. Those are people who love learning so much that they want something extra. Next thing, you know, him and basically just booting out all of the immigrants. We're going to talk about that more later, but that has dire implications. The Don't Say Gay rule. He waged a war with the biggest economic contributor in his state, and arguably one of the biggest economic contributors in the friggin' world. It's just not smart. He's talking about indoctrination, but he is the one indoctrinating. His campaign ad was terrible. Did you guys see that campaign ad that he did? How on earth did he think that that was a good idea? Now, he talked about indoctrination. Let me go ahead and just add this. After Trump, after DeSantis, the things that they talk about with LGBTQ, and Trump kind of abandoned that a while ago. But just, Trump was the one who started this. DeSantis jumped on the bandwagon. Take a look at some of the terrible anti-LGBTQ stuff that's happened, and this doesn't even scratch the surface.
Staying in California, where an investigation is underway, a business owner was fatally shot after someone allegedly took issue with an LGBTQ+ flag displayed at her store.
A man was stabbed to death at a Brooklyn gas station after dancing shirtless with his friends by the gas pumps.
Now, police say a dispute actually broke out between two groups, and the 17-year-old suspected of killing the man could now be facing hate crime charges. News 4's Rana Novini has the story from Midwood.
28-year-old O'Shea Sibley's death may have been fueled by hate. Police saying he may have been targeted because he's gay.
The Little Rock, Arkansas high school that made history nearly 66 years ago when the Little Rock 9 integrated its classrooms is now fighting efforts to whitewash history. Little Rock Central High School is one of 6 schools in the state sticking with its plans to offer AP African American Studies, despite the state education department warning the class might not count toward graduation requirements.
I understand why America's hurting. Biden's inflation is choking us. I grew up in a small town. My dad died when I was a freshman in high school. My mom, widow of 3, went back to work. Every job I had growing up was one where I took a shower at the end of the day, not at the beginning of the day.
Like that. He's also not a bigot.
Our cities are less safe because of the fentanyl pouring into this country. Our economy is being crushed by Biden's energy policies, which are raising the cost of every product you buy, not just the gasoline at the pump. One thing that I'll do as president, I'll secure the border. I'll get this economy sprinting, not crawling like it is right now. And I would say that other thing is for sure, when I'm on a horseback in the Badlands of North Dakota, it looks like the horizon is just limitless. And when you can almost see beyond that horizon, you can see that this great country, our future is unlimited. But we've got to focus on innovation, not regulation. We've got to cut the red tape. We've got to drive ourselves forward. The way we win the Cold War with China is by growing our economy and through innovation. And as president, I will bring out the best of America. I will improve every American life.
Okay, let's talk about this, because he talks about Biden, you know, choking the life out of inflation, choking the life out of the economy, however he put it, as if Trump was really, like Trump had really had the country on a roll, and we need to get back to that. We need to pick it back up. I'm with what Nikki Haley said. We need to get an accountant up in here, because Democrats are spending less, yet we talking about how we budget so much. Taking a look at Trump's number, this is the 2021 final report from factcheck.org. Jobs were down 3 million. The unemployment rate was up 6.3%. I mean, COVID is part of that, but also when you're like a dictator and you basically only want to give the power to white, conservative men, the economy is not really going to do well. But, I mean, that doesn't benefit the poor. It doesn't benefit the people who are giving Donald Trump his friggin', their friggin' Social Security checks. It benefits Donald Trump and his rich friends. So there was 25.7% job openings were up. Now, that's not necessarily a great thing. That means there were job vacancies, like nobody's filling them out. Economic growth rate was down 3.4%. Median household income, that was up 6%. But, I mean, for who would be the question? Food stamp recipients were down 1.7%, but again, looking at that unemployment rate and looking at the jobs and the vacancies, it's weird. Murder rate was up 1.1 points. You know, and you can kind of pause and take a deeper look at those numbers if you want. Now, looking at Biden's. So, this is from the July 2023. So, this is since 2021, plus 13.2 million jobs created. Plus, not down, but up. Unemployment rate down 3.6%. So, he took what Donald Trump shot up, he brought it on back down. NASDAQ is up plus 7 points. Real weekly earnings is down, okay? Gas prices are up, but gas prices partly are up due to COVID. People without health insurance is down 1.3 points, so that's good. Food stamp recipients is less.